Apparently, I should kill myself, but more on that later. Let's start the show! There is no God and we're all gonna die. There is no God and we're all gonna die. There is no God and we're all gonna die. There is no God, there's just you and I. Welcome to There Is No God and We're All Gonna Die. This is my first episode and I'm very excited about it. This is a podcast that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'm a gay liberal atheist living in the Bible Belt, and I live here with my partner Corey and our 3 dogs. We rescue handicapped dogs. And yeah, I'm very excited. I'm still learning how to do all this. This has been kind of a crash course on how to do a podcast. So forgive me in advance if I kind of seem a little flustered, but hopefully over time I'll get a little bit more comfortable with the format. And in the meantime, we can all just kind of go on this journey together. I want to start this off by basically listing off 10 things I want people to know so that there's no confusion, because I understand the title, There Is No God and We're All Gonna Die, is a very in-your-face title. So I just wanted to put some fears to rest. And all right, so let's talk about these 10 things. I have a little theme music. 1, 2, 10 things, 10 things, 10 things that are amazing. Yeah. All right. I actually just recorded that with my iPhone playing the folk guitar, but anyway, so thing number 1, I am not trying to be mean. I know that when some of you saw the ad for this podcast, what you saw was me saying, there is no God and we're all gonna die. Yeah, those are really strong statements, but just so you know, I don't hate religious people. I don't hate people who have beliefs that aren't mine. This is my podcast, though, and so as a gay liberal atheist living the Bible Belt who came to those beliefs through a lot of thought on my part, I wanted to do a podcast from my point of view. When I'm doing this, my goal is to never be mean towards anybody else. I will point out when people are using their religion to take away the rights of other people or to trample all over people's lives that they've never met. Me pointing that out is not mean. Me pointing that out is just me being a citizen of the world saying, hey, that's not cool. And so you will see me do that quite a bit, but I will never come on here and be like, oh, you know what? Everybody who believes in Jesus Christ or everybody who believes in Allah or Buddha or anything else, they're all assholes, because I don't feel that way. Thing number 2, I don't hate religious people. I really don't. You guys, I live down in Tennessee, so pretty much most of my friends here believe in something. I'm usually the atheist in the group, like, oh, okay, and then there's Daniel the atheist, and that's kind of like the part I play in most social situations. I hope that I'm the lovable atheist. That's kind of what I'm going for, but I'm sure there's some people down here who have heard me speak at some of the anonymous meetings I go to. I've been sober for about 6.5 years, so I go to some meetings that are anonymous. I can't say the name of the organization, but when we go there, we talk about a higher power. For me, the higher power that I give my life and my will over to is reality, because when I was drinking, that was the thing I was trying to escape. And so it makes perfect sense for me. Like, reality is going to be reality. I can pray about it, or I can wish, or I can do all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, reality is going to play out the way it does. And sometimes it's horribly tragic, and sometimes it's amazing. The results are never going to be up to me. I do know that I increase my chances of things working out for the better when I show up and try to do my best. And that's all I know. So to me, I try to keep it that simple. But I don't hate religious people. As a matter of fact, I love everybody. And so my goal also with this podcast is to hopefully bring people together from different frames of mind. Yeah. Thing number 3. I've wanted to do this podcast forever. I do art and I do music, and that is a huge part of how I express myself to the world. But there's only so much you can put in a song or a painting For instance, if I was doing a song about homophobia, I could have a couple lines that rhyme about being gay and how it's bad to judge people being gay. But there's so much more behind all that. There's so many news stories and, horrific things people have said and, stories of gay teenagers killing themselves and stories of trans people being murdered and stories of people being disowned by their family. And you can't cram that all into a 3-minute song without it sounding like a jumbled mess. And so I like to say that with my art and my music, and it's very sincere when I make it, it still only scratches the surface of all the thoughts that I have. And so I wanted to do a podcast to get the rest of it out, like the 99%, basically like if there's 1% of the details that I can put in a song or a piece of art, I wanted an outlet for the rest, the other 99%. And so that's what this podcast is. Number 4, this is not the Atheist podcast. This is the Life is Randomly Bonkers podcast, but we're still here to live it, and we're all stuck here with each other. Yeah, basically, this is just me talking about my life. I am definitely going to talk about being a quote-unquote gay liberal atheist living the Bible Belt, but I'm also going to talk about my relationship, about getting older, about having friends, about my music career, about that feeling of like working really hard towards something, and sometimes it can feel like we're knocking on a door and nobody's going to answer, or my recovery, or my dogs, or just stuff that I think is cool. So yeah, this is just a podcast about life, really. And we are all stuck here together. We may claim to hate each other. Republicans may claim to hate Democrats, and Christians may claim to hate me because I'm an atheist, and sometimes I even find myself hating people because they do things that piss me off. But at the end of the day, we are pretty much stuck on this planet with each other. And so I feel like our job is to still try and find the love. It's really hard to do sometimes. And so me doing this podcast is another way of me trying to do that. Number 5, I will talk a lot about my life. Okay, well, I don't need to say much more about that. I mean, I'm doing a podcast. What the hell else am I supposed to talk about? Number 6, I will repeat myself quite a bit. Yeah, because some people may come to this party like 5 episodes in or 10 episodes in, or if I'm lucky enough to do 100 episodes, they might discover me then. And so, yeah, I'm going to be repeating some of this stuff over and over so that if somebody shows up on podcast number 76 or 77, I might still remind them, hey, this isn't the Atheist is gonna be mean to everybody podcast. If you're here and you have beliefs that I don't agree with, I'm still glad you're here. And maybe there's something I'll say that you still relate to. You may not relate to the atheist thing or me being a liberal, and you may not relate to being gay. That's totally cool. At the end of the day, we're all still humans, so I'm glad you're here. Yeah, so I'll repeat that quite a bit. Number 7, I have no clue what I'm doing. I don't. This is all a learning experience. Number 8. Good Lord, I can't even read my writing. The "we're all gonna die" part of my title is more important. Oh, yes. So I think some of you probably clicked on this because you're a devout Christian or a devout Muslim, or you're devout in some sort of faith. And you might have clicked on it because you just were so pissed off that I said, there is no God. I'm still glad you're here. But just so you know, that's a very small part of why I'm doing this podcast. The "we're all gonna die" part, that's something we all can agree on. We're all gonna die. So if we know we're all gonna die, how do we want to spend the time we have here? For me as an atheist, I truly believe when I die, it's lights out. I don't, I can't really get myself to believe in an afterlife, but I will tell you this much. I hope I'm wrong, because if I am wrong, that means I do get to live more after I die. But my brain doesn't really compute the way other people's brains do that believe in an afterlife. So for me, it just doesn't make any sense. Like I've tried to justify it. Okay, like if I die and I go to heaven, well, then people say like when my dogs die, they go to heaven and I'll see them again or I'll see my mom again. But like, what about like all the mosquitoes that die and all the flies? Like, where's the cutoff for souls? Like if all souls go to heaven, like every gnat that dies, like every microscopic organism that dies, like do they go to a heaven? So it didn't make any sense to me, and I am very literal. I will admit that. So for me, I kind of think it's lights out when I die. I think that my molecules continue to go on, and my molecules will always be here, and they'll nourish other things and become, parts of worms and birds and trees and leaves and all sorts of other stuff. But what makes me me, the way all the molecules are arranged right now, and the fact that my brain works and can create all these thoughts in my head, like that stops existing when I die. And it slowly breaks down. And then after a while, it's like I was never here, because even the people who remember me eventually will die. And then, unless I did something truly noteworthy, like, I don't know, formed a new country, eventually people are going to forget that I existed. And can I live with that and still have a meaningful life right now? That's, stuff that I think about quite a bit. So I will be talking about that. Number 9. Oh, this is just a little bit of trivia about me. My favorite TV shows: Parks and Recreation, The Office, the American version. I like the English version too, but I love the American version. I love Arrested Development. At least I love the first 3 seasons. When Netflix brought it back, it kind of lost some of its magic. There was some funny parts to it, but the first 3 seasons are incredible. What else? Oh, and 30 Rock. I'm a huge 30 Rock fan. Liz Lemon is kind of one of my heroes. And so I love 30 Rock. I love Black Mirror. I love The Twilight Zone, the old Twilight Zone from the 60s. And I love a lot of, like I love the Golden Girls because I'm gay. Like I legally have to love the Golden Girls. And I don't know, I love cute puppy videos on YouTube. There's like SNL sketches that I'll watch over and over and over again because they're so funny. There's one that Tina Fey and Amy Poehler do called Meet Your Second Wife, which I've probably watched 50 times. It's hilarious. And I actually do listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to Office Ladies. I listen to the Sarah Silverman podcast. I think she's pretty brilliant. But anyways, that's just some trivia about me. Number 10, my hope. My hope is that we can create a sense of community. You guys, I can't read my writing. My hope is what did I write here? All right. My hope, community, is that people can arrive pissed off, but stay because they relate to something. That is my hope. I also hope that fellow atheists or fellow liberals or fellow LGBTQIA people can come and feel like, hey, here's a space that I'm welcome and that this guy's like me. And, especially if you grew up if you live in the Bible Belt or a really conservative area. I live in a very conservative area right now. Me and my partner are basically like the town liberals. We live right in the center of town with our 3 dogs, and it can be very scary. I think our county overwhelmingly voted for Trump. There's Trump 2024 flags and even Trump 2020 flags everywhere. There's Confederate flags all over the place. And, but we live here because it's affordable. And, I bought this house a while ago and I've been slowly fixing it up. But, it still needs a lot of work. So there's no way I could just sell it in its current condition. And we also have a handicapped pack of dogs. So we can't just up and move with these handicapped dogs. We would need to find a place where we could still afford to live. And, right now these dogs have a fenced in yard. It's a safe place for them to live. So we're here, and we do love our community. We live amongst a lot of conservative people, but we've gone out of our way to let them know that we love them. Like I said, I love everybody. And so living here has taught me that it's my job to still be the love I want to see in the world. And so that's what I try to do. But I still get to have stuff like my podcast where I talk about being an atheist because it's important for me to express this side of me as well. And I think if I was just walking around my town, like going into Dollar General and going into, like Dairy Queen and being like, hey, I'll have a Blizzard. And by the way, I'm an atheist. Like, I think they would get annoyed after a while. So, here's a place that I can express this part of myself. All right. Well, that was fun. Now I want to do this next segment. This segment is called I'm Kind of a Douchebag When I'm Dealing with Assholes. What? Kind of a douchebag when it comes to assholes. Kind of a douchebag when it comes to assholes. Kind of a douchebag when it comes to assholes. Yeah. But I still love them. Aw. Well, that was just adorable. Okay. So let me break down what's going to happen here. Every week, I am going to profile a different asshole in the news, and I'm going to talk about how I was kind of a douchebag back to them, but it's because, I don't know, some people just bring that out in me, and I try to do it with a sense of love and whimsy. One of the things that I've had to develop is a sense of humor about things, and so at the beginning of this podcast, I was talking about apparently I should kill myself. Well, the reason why I brought that up is because the asshole of the week is this guy, Stephen Falco. He is the preacher at this church up in Indianapolis, the Sure Foundation Baptist Church. Okay, so basically he's been all over the news because he did his men's Bible study, and in it, he basically said that gays should kill themselves. He said gays are horrible people. As a matter of fact, I'm going to share my screen and read exactly what he said because, honestly, you guys, it's just horrible. Share my screen. Share. Okay. So basically, this is what he was saying. He was saying there's nothing good to be proud about being he basically said faggot. You ought to blow yourself in the back of the head. You're so disgusting. All right, so that's what he thinks gay people should do. So apparently he thinks I should shoot myself in the head for being gay. A trait about myself that I never chose. Like that, this is the thing that people need to understand. I'm going to stop presenting. Stop sharing. Gay people don't choose to be gay. Maybe some people experiment in college or whatever, but y'all, from the moment I realized I was gay, when I was a teenager, I was actually horrified. Because I had heard, that gays were perverts and they were sick and all this other stuff. And so when I started having feelings for other guys, I'd look in like a magazine and I'd see like a men's underwear ad and I'd start feeling all funny. That really freaked me out. It scared the hell out of me, honestly. And what kid wants to be different? Like, I grew up in the 80s when, calling somebody a fag was the ultimate insult. You just you're like, oh, that's gay. That's really queer. So like, if you grow up in that environment, why would you suddenly be like, oh, well, I'm going to be the thing that people use as an insult? Like, I'm actually going to be that thing. I'm choosing to be that thing. Like, no kid. Like, kids want to fit in. Also, like, when people say, it's a horrible choice, it's like, okay, well, when did you choose to be straight? And when you chose to be straight, did you grapple with it? Did you, find yourself fantasizing about, like, penises? But then you're like, no, I need to be into women. And then you finally got yourself to choose to be straight and be into women. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, people just are what they are. Okay, so basically this guy said all this horrible stuff, like that gays should kill themselves, and so people rightfully called him out on it. And so then he posted all this stuff on their Facebook page saying, I'm not going to back down, and gays are horrible, and they're the scum of the earth, and they should die, and all this other stuff. And I left a comment, and yes, it's me being a douchebag, but you guys, sometimes I can't help myself. I was bullied as a child, and I refuse to be bullied now. So this is the really silly comment that I left him. Dear Stephen Falco of the Sure Foundation Baptist Church,
Thank you so much for telling me I should die. That is so thoughtful of you. How should we handle my death? Should I don't know, come up to Indianapolis and have you kill me? Or should your whole congregation kill me? I mean, we could make it into a big party, like a potluck. I love a good potluck. And actually, I make these amazing cookies. They're called hot mess cookies. They're kind of like chocolate chip cookies, but they have butterscotch chips and shredded coconut and walnuts and I think even Reese's Pieces. I don't know. Anyways, I could make some of those and I could bring them. And if anybody has any nut allergies, you can just let me know and I can make a separate batch for them. So it's not a big deal. But, yeah. It'll be sad to die, but if you say I must, I guess that'll be that. Actually, now that I think about it, you probably want to kill my partner too, because he's gay. I don't think he's as open to the idea as I am, but, Oh, you know what? I can actually just tell him we're going up to Indianapolis for one of those gay agenda meetings that we have, and that'll work. He'll definitely want to do that, so... you can kill us both then, and yeah, it'll be like double the fun, I guess. I don't know, we're gonna miss all of our loved ones, our friends and family, and of course the dogs we rescue, but like you said, we should have thought of all this before we became dirty sodomites. Oh well. Anywho, let me know what you decide. I'd love to bring some of those cookies, and again, if anybody has any nut allergies, just let me know. I can make a second batch. It's not a big deal. But I look forward to hearing from you, and sorry that I was just such a dirty homosexual. But, you know, looks like we're gonna solve that. So, yay! I will talk to you later. Bye.
Okay, you guys, I know that's silly, but I have to leave comments like that because, as I said, man, I was bullied so much growing up. You know, I had people calling me a faggot and all this other stuff. And I was gay bashed. I was gay bashed really bad when I was 19. It was very violent. I'm not going to get into it now. I still suffer from PTSD from it. But, you know, nowadays when I hear people say, oh, gays should be killed, gays should be executed, gays should, you know, kill themselves, I kind of have to go and say something and directly to them. I don't know if that guy saw my silly post, but I wanted him to know, look, dude, you're not scaring me. And I'm not going to kill myself. I'm sorry, but I'm not. Life's too beautiful and I'm having too much fun. So, you know, if you want to make your whole life about hating gay people, you sound like an asshole. I'm still sending you love because that's just how I am. Like I said, I love everybody, even that friggin' douchebag. But yes, I was a bit of a douchebag to him. So that was my installment this week of I'm kind of a douchebag when I'm dealing with assholes. So anyways, I think we should listen to some voicemails. Let's listen to some voicemails. Yeah. Voicemails, yeah. All right.
Daniel, good morning. It's Ed from Michigan. Wanted to call and ask you a few questions. First of all, I love your music, your artwork, and all that you do, and all your fur babies and your family. You're just amazing. I just wonder, I know that you are a gay atheist living in the Bible Belt of the country, and Tennessee seems to be the place that you've made your home, which is great. I'm just curious if there's a specific reason why you continue to stay there, or if you have considered moving to a less conservative part of the country where you and your family can be around more like-minded people. And what type of friends and chosen family have you been able to find in your conservative area of Tennessee that you guys live in? So wish you the best on your podcast. Love you, and we'll talk later.
That was my wonderful friend, Ed, and that was so nice to hear his voice. Ed, thank you so much for those wonderful questions. So the first part of the question, you asked why I stay here. I kind of covered that at the beginning of the podcast, but just to reiterate again, we live here with a bunch of handicapped dogs. They require a lot of care and a lot of space, and they're very expensive to take care of. We're always at the vets. We have blind dogs, blind and deaf dogs. We have a dog with kind of like a nervous neurological condition. Uprooting and moving somewhere else with this pack of handicapped dogs would be a big undertaking. But also, when I bought this house, it was because I desperately needed to find a place to live, and this was what I could afford, and it was way out in the middle of nowhere, because when you move way out into the middle of nowhere, things are more affordable. I bought a house that was a fixer-upper, and anybody who has a fixer-upper will know exactly what I'm talking about. You have every intention of moving in and immediately fixing up your house. But there's this thing called life, which is busy and it's exhausting, and it's working jobs and dealing with clients and dealing with releasing albums and dealing with starting podcasts and doing presentations and going to the vets and having relationships and going to AA meetings and all sorts of other things. And so my life is extremely busy. My house that is a fixer-upper does not get worked on that much. The last thing you want to do once you're living in a house is work on it. And so I moved in here with all the intentions of fixing this house up right away and making it into a palace. And I've instead learned to live with all the quirks and gaping problems that this house has. It becomes kind of like just, you gotta like tape the handle together to use this thing or whatever. And after a while, it becomes normal. So, yeah, that's why I stay here, because if I was going to sell this house, I would actually have to stop everything and just work on this house for probably like a half a year. And then it would be ready to sell, but it does need a ton of work. It's a really great house. I love my house and I'm very grateful for it. But yeah, it needs a lot of work. You asked if I had a family of like-minded friends here. Yes, I have a wonderful community here. Even way out in the country, out in the middle of nowhere, I have transgender friends. I have friends from all different faiths. I have gay friends, straight friends. I have non-binary friends. I have friends that are every skin shade you can imagine. So diversity is everywhere. I think it's really funny that well, it's not funny. It's really sad and it's really stupid and it's really dumb. But I think it's really sad, stupid, and dumb that the Trump administration is just so hell-bent on destroying any mention of diversity, when diversity is what makes this world interesting, and it obviously should be celebrated, but that's a topic for another day. But thank you so much, Ed. I love you, and I'm so grateful that you called. I hope you call in again. Please do, because I will probably be begging people to call in for a while until people find out about this podcast.
Hi Daniel, this is Ian from London, UK. I want to know, if there's no God, who made you so hot?
That was Ian calling all the way from across the pond in England. Wow, we already have international callers. That's pretty amazing. I feel super cool now. Ian, I don't know who made me so hot. First of all, it's questionable if I'm hot. Thank you for thinking that I am. That is always nice to hear, especially at the age of 56, because a lot of times I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my God, I look so old. Not that there's anything wrong with looking old. I'm actually really into getting old, but yeah, sometimes I kind of wish I still looked like I was 26, but I'm 56. But thank you. I don't know. I drink a lot of water. I don't get a lot of sun because I don't tan, I burn, and so I've stopped trying to tan. And so when I go out into the sun and walk my dogs, I wear like 18,000 pounds of sunblock, and I moisturize like as if I own a moisturizer company and I have unlimited moisturizer. Like I'm always like slopping more moisturizer on my face. And yeah, I drink a lot of water. I don't drink anymore. I've been sober for 6.5 years, and I stopped smoking when I was 44, so I haven't smoked in about 12 years. And I guess maybe that's why maybe I'm quote unquote hot. I don't know if that makes me hot, but it certainly has helped me stay youngish looking. And I like, I go to the gym and stuff. I work out and, I don't know. But I think we're all hot to somebody. Everybody is hot to somebody. So we're all hot. But I love you and thank you for calling. And your voice, your British voice, just melts my heart. I love those English accents. Oh my God. I could listen to that forever. All right, let's see.
Hey, Daniel. It's Lunchy Angel in Medellin, Colombia, but as you know, I live in California. Daniel, you say that there is no God, and that is such a loaded word because the second it's uttered, everyone's individual idea of what that is assumes that everyone else's idea is the same. So the word God doesn't work for me either. But let's talk about spirituality instead. Where do you position yourself on talking about your soul or being incarnated into this lifetime or any other lifetime? What is your take on all that stuff? I'm interested. Thank you, sweetie.
Oh. Well, first of all, I just love the love in your voice. You have one of those voices that's just so soothing, and I couldn't help but smile listening to you talk. So thank you so much for calling. I don't know, as far as the soul is concerned, and you may not like this answer, and I apologize in advance because I'm not saying this to be mean or anything. It's just kind of how I view things. My brain is very literal, as I've said. So I kind of think that my soul is just my brain remembering things, and my brain, running to the different filing cabinets and getting information out when it's needed. And so if I'm telling a joke here, or I'm, painting a painting there, or I'm writing a song, or I'm interacting with a friend, it's just my brain doing what a brain does. And it gives the illusion that there's this like thing outside me that's my soul, but I think it's really just me being me. And it's kind of a bummer. Like when I die, I think that all stops. I think that my body will always be here. It'll break down and it will nourish other things. My body's always been here because my body is made up of molecules of, things I've eaten and the air that I breathe and the water I drink and everything else. We are what we ingest. And then, so that's just how life, I grew some tomato plants outside and I gave them water and they're getting sunlight and they're getting nutrients from the soil. And so then there's these tomatoes growing. And, it's kind of the same with a person. Like we're just these human plants that are growing. And then when we die, and then we break down just like a plant breaks down or anything. And so I don't really believe that my soul gets reincarnated, but here's the other thing I want you to know. The thing I like about being an atheist is hoping that I'm wrong. It would be great to realize when I die, like, oh my God, I actually had a soul and I get to be reincarnated into something else, or I get to go to this heaven or something. That would be awesome. Like if it turns out that I'm wrong, sign me up for that because that would be so cool. I have a hard time looking at life that way because I'm so literal. But if I'm wrong, I will not complain. I'll be here for all of it and I'll be psyched. I will say this though. What's beautiful in life is always happening right now. And so right now, I just got to listen to your beautiful voicemail and it put a huge smile on my face. And so to me, that's what's important, is that I got to hear you asked this really sincere question, and I got to answer it, and hopefully you liked my answer, even if you didn't agree with me or it was different from what you believe. Maybe we were able to have this fun moment where we just considered things, and that's great. And so maybe that's all there is, and maybe there's more. But I love the question, and I hope you call back and ask more questions because I just like listening to your voice. It's a very soothing, very relaxing voice. Let's see. What else?
Hey Daniel, it's Ruben from Dixon, Tennessee. I was wondering, what is your very earliest memory?
I know who that is. That's Ruben. So I'm a member of a local artist guild, and Ruben is an amazing painter. He is absolutely incredible. He does these amazing paintings that are usually done in all black and whites, but he does landscapes and all sorts of other things. But he's the president of our artist guild, and I'm actually the treasurer because they trust me with the money. But anyways, that's a whole other story. Thank you for calling in. You know I love you, and I love your wife, Laura, and it's so nice to hear from you. And what a wonderful question. And I will tell you, my earliest memory that I can think of. So when I was 3 years old, I vividly remember my birthday cake, and it was a bundt cake, and it had like icing on it, and then there were animal crackers that were kind of stood up like they were parading around the bundt cake. And yeah, I just remember that birthday cake. I remember my 3-year-old birthday cake with the animal crackers. I don't know what kind of cake it was or anything like that, but I do remember that it had animal crackers parading around the top of it like they were in a parade. So that's a nice memory. Trying to think if I remember anything earlier than that. I mean, I remember a lot of things from when I was young, but I don't know if they happened before that or afterwards. So I'm going to go with that because that's a very specific moment. I probably do remember some of the other images that I have flashing in my brain. I know that there was a time when we were all at this swimming place where everybody was swimming, and I may have been younger than 3 then, but I'm not sure. So anyways, I'm going to go with the 3-year-old birthday cake. All right. Who else?
Hey, Daniel, it's Corey. I'm calling from the living room. I've got a question for you. What exactly is your damage with tornadoes? Why are you made so nervous by severe weather? Every time, like, the siren goes off and the sky goes green, I'm out on the front porch, I'm clapping my hands, and I'm bouncing up and down like a preteen at a pizza party, and you are cowering in the bathroom with the door locked. And I just want to point out here that there is not actually a functional lock on that door. There's only like this really tiny little deadbolt latch, and it's about as effective as the kind of lock that a schoolgirl puts on her diary. And I'm like, yeah, that's really going to protect you from the wrath of an F5, bro. But okay, you do you. Anyway, I just want to know kind of what goes through your head every time we're facing a tornado emergency. And if you're not praying to God, what exactly are you going through? What are you thinking about, etc.? All right, I love you. Bye.
Well, that is my better half calling, my Corey. I'll talk more about who Corey is in other episodes, so tune in for that. But I'll answer his question. So I am ridiculously scared of tornadoes. They scare the fucking bejesus out of me, and that is what I'm thinking of when I'm locked in the bathroom with the dogs. Is I'm just thinking I don't want to fucking die, because again, if I die, it's lights out. Like, I don't think I'm going to heaven or anything like that. I think it's like, well, this is it. And I don't want existence to end. I like existing while I'm existing. And I want to continue existing for as long as possible because, if we're still here, we can still be doing stuff and we can still be part of the action. And I like being part of the action. And so, when we die, we don't get to do that anymore. And so, the tornadoes, they just seem so random. It's like this finger from the sky that's just obliterating one house, but leaving another house standing. And that randomness freaks the flying fuck out of me. And so that is what I'm thinking when I am in the bathroom with the dogs and you're out on the front porch, because he actually chases storms. Like, he's a storm chaser. So we are polar opposite in this department. But yeah. And I'm usually texting you like, what's going on? Did the tornado pass us? And you're like, it's fine. And so, yeah, I'm usually just wanting it all to end and go back to normal. But that's what I'm thinking. And I'm not really praying to a god. Because I don't believe in that. Maybe there's been a couple close. There was that one time where I thought a tornado was actually about to come hit our house, but it was actually just hail, but it was very loud hail. I thought it was a tornado hitting our house. And I have to admit, I might have yelled, "Oh God," but I wouldn't really consider that a prayer. I think it was just me freaking out. I love you, honey. Thank you for calling. I'm sure I will ask you to call again at some point because I like hearing your voice. All right, what else?
This is Matthew calling in from Amsterdam. And I guess my question for you is, do you have any strategies for bridge building in these strange times? With everything getting so incredibly polarized, I'm intrigued to, pardon me, to understand that you live in a place that seems to be full of Trump voters, and how is that? How do you kind of manage living amongst people who perhaps feel incredibly different to the way you do about all kinds of things? Because it doesn't seem it would be nice to just run around with only walls around you and walls up to interactions. But yeah, I'm intrigued if this is something you could talk to at some point. And I wish you all the best with your podcast. And Corey's animations look amazing, so bring it on. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that question. God, it's so wonderful to hear somebody calling from Amsterdam. I feel very cool right now knowing that in my first episode, I've had a bunch of people calling from different countries. I had somebody call from Colombia, I had somebody call from London, and now somebody call from Amsterdam. So I think we're up to a pretty good start because, it turns out that people are thinking about this stuff all over the world, not just here in my little corner of the Bible Belt. And your question is really beautiful. It actually cuts right to the heart of why I'm doing this podcast. Yeah, I'm not really into walking around putting blinders on. I don't do it perfectly. After the election, I flipped out and I was kind of like a crazy person for a little while. I basically had a meltdown because I couldn't believe that America had voted Trump back into office, especially after January 6th, when he literally used false information and phony stolen election claims to get an angry mob to show up at our nation's capital and try to overthrow the government. I mean, they showed up with zip ties and box cutters and nooses. And what I keep thinking is, and this is a whole other thing, and I'm not going to get too into it right now, but maybe I'll delve into it more in a future episode. But, just the whole thing is, what if they had found some of the people that they had showed up to confront? Like, what if they had actually found Nancy Pelosi or Mike Pence or a member of the squad, AOC, or any of those people? I mean, I really think we would have seen people get lynched on live TV. I honestly do. I don't think they would. Like, if that angry mob of MAGA supporters had Nancy Pelosi, do you really think they would have been peaceful about it? Like, no, they would have been totally, probably wanting to rip her to shreds, and so, yeah, it's very chilling to think about that. But anyways, I live amongst tons of Trump supporters, and I honestly believe that it's my job to be the love that I want to see in the world. I do. Okay, y'all. I live next to a train, so a train's going to be coming by. I can't do anything about it. You may hear a train in the background. It's just life being life. Trains happen. Trains will drive through the center of my town, and I can't do anything about it. I could stop filming, but actually I'm not going to stop filming because I'm curious. I'm curious just from a technical standpoint if this will be truly distracting or not. So I guess I'll find out. And it's also raining right now, so there's rain hitting my tin roof. So this is actually a good thing for me tech-wise. I will be able to listen back to this podcast and I will know right away if it rains, I need to stop recording. If a train comes by, I need to stop recording or not. So this is going to kind of answer those questions for me. So y'all are here for me learning something. Anyways, yeah, I believe it's my job to be the love I want to see in the world. It doesn't mean that I have to like what people believe. I think a good example of that would be my neighbors. They're huge Trump supporters. They had their big 8-foot long Trump flag where he was giving the thumbs up and it said no more bullshit and like all this other stuff. But they love Corey and I. They like if they have extra produce, they bring it over to our house and they know that we are gay liberals. They probably even know that I'm an atheist. I know that they're not. They're very religious. But they say we're the best neighbors they've ever had. I'm loving back to them. Why wouldn't I be? I mean, they're still people and we live in the same neighborhood. What would me giving them the silent treatment and being a fucking douchebag do for the situation? It wouldn't do anything. And for all I know, Corey and I are the two liberal people in their lives. I mean, hopefully they know other liberal people who are feeding them more than just Fox News and InfoWars and Breitbart. And if I truly care about the issues that I claim to care about, like gay rights, like female reproductive rights, like anything having to do with equality, racial injustice, the environment. If I truly care about these things, then I need to care about them enough to keep people in my life that I don't agree with, because I may be that one voice of reason in their life. And am I willing to do that? Now, I don't do it perfectly. After the election, I was so furious when they voted Trump back in that I literally was throwing furniture across the front of my house. I was literally took a chair and threw it across the room. That's how upset I was. And yeah, I unfriended a bunch of people. I blocked a bunch of people. I kind of had a temper tantrum. I don't feel bad about that. That's where I was at the time. Like November 6, 2025. Was a really dark day for a lot of people. It was a day where a lot of people felt like democracy had died. And part of me still worries that maybe it did. Once the dust settled and I looked at my behavior, I realized, you know, this isn't the person I want to be. I don't want to be this person who's just shutting everybody out because he's pissed off. And so I had to go back and, you know, not with everybody. I mean, there were certain people that I unfriended, and they were people who were posting really hideous things about Kamala Harris, like calling her a whore and stuff like that. And they weren't people I knew very well, so I didn't feel like I was going to add much to their life, or they weren't going to really add much to my life. And so I kind of stayed unfriended with them, you know, for now. But there were other people who I knew from real life, maybe from the program of recovery that I go to deal with, you know, staying sober, or maybe they were just members of the community, or people I've known for years, you know, people I went to high school with, or even some family members. And, you know, I went back and started, you know, communicating with them again, because it's all about communication. And, you know, Sarah Silverman says it best in her podcast. She had a guy call in once and he was like, my grandfather is really into Donald Trump and MAGA, and I'm afraid that I'm not going to be able to, you know, talk to my grandfather anymore. And her advice to him was, that's your grandpa. Like, just love him. Just love him. You don't have to agree with him, but just love him. And, you know, maybe ask him about his life. Maybe talk about things other than politics. Because, you know, at the end of the day, and I do say that expression a lot, at the end of the day, there are things we'll all be able to agree on. I believe that there is still things more that unite us than divide us. We all want the same thing. We want to have a roof over our head. We want to feel like we can follow our dreams. We want to feel like we can reach for the stars. We want to know that the people we love are going to be okay. If we need to go to the hospital, we can go to the hospital. We all hear these horror stories about people dying in floods or tornadoes, like the flood that's happening down in Texas, and everybody thinks it's horrible. Not just Republicans, not just Democrats. We hear these horror stories about animals being abused, and everybody thinks they're horrible. Not just liberals, conservatives too. Sometimes what I'm gonna be bonding with somebody over is the fact that they love their dog. And that may not seem like a lot, but as an animal lover myself, we can still bond over that. And that gives us something that we can talk about, so I try to keep the doors of communication open. Now, I have friends who live in more like, I don't want to call them liberal bubbles, but let's just say I lived in New York for 10 years off and on. Well, actually longer than that. But when you live in an area like that, I can understand why, it's kind of easy to just surround yourself with people who think just like you do. And there's nothing wrong. That can be great. I'm not knocking it. I'm really not knocking it. I don't live in a place like that. And I don't know when I ever would again. I certainly wouldn't be able to afford to live in New York now with 3 dogs. And, I just, there's no way I could swing it. I'm pretty much stuck here. So for me, I just keep going back to that expression, be the love that you want to see in the world. But it doesn't mean that I'm just going to co-opt people's bullshit. I will let people know when I don't agree with things. And so at least they hear somebody disagreeing with them. I think that's important. I think that disagreements, if it's done respectfully. Now, I don't do it all respectfully all the time. I mean, if you catch me on Facebook sometimes, I can be a douchebag. I can be a total fucking douchebag. But, well, it's something I'm working on. Anyways, those were all the calls. If you want to call in, again, all you got to do is go to my Facebook page, Daniel Cartier, Facebook/Daniel Cartier, and you can leave a voice memo that way. Or the other thing you can do is you can email me at thereisnogod@gmail.com. There is no God and we're all gonna die. Gonna, Gonna, die, at gmail.com. And you can record a voice memo with your phone and send me the MP3 of it. So you can do it that way as well. And if you can't figure out a way to send me a question in an audio version of it, you can also just ask me a question. You can go to my website, danielcartier.com, and go to the contact page. And you can just ask a question that way. Just put in the subject, question for podcast, so I know. That's my first episode, you guys. I did it. And, yeah. Goodbye, it's time to end the show. We'll work on that too. Just so you know, all those little music tags that I did, I recorded them with my iPhone. And so, because I had run out of time and I really just needed to get this episode done so I could say that I recorded the first episode. Maybe over time we will work on those musical tags, and maybe even some of you could send in some musical tags for those segments, but not yet. We will live with those for a while. I love you guys. Go to danielcartier.com, and if you want to subscribe to my email list and get updates on the podcast, you can also email me again at thereisnogod and we're all gonna die at gmail.com if you want to ask a question or send in a voice memo that way, or you can send in a voice memo using the Facebook Messenger app, Facebook/Daniel Cartier, and I'm sure there'll be more things that I'm hawking and selling, but for now I'm just gonna say goodbye, and I love you, and thank you for weathering this first episode with me. We did it! Yay! All right, you guys, I love you. Bye! There is no God in the